Yeah, I can confirm. Maybe several times. I know we did an episode the other day. Taden, could you hear
now. No. Mental health.
Bryan, how was the sound? Good?
Yeah. What's going on?
Hello, for the ones listening, how's the audio? Can you hear it? Is it loud and clear? Or is it choppy? Or is it on mute? Someone make a comment.
Let us know. Let us know.
Yo.
Uh-huh. How's the audio? Could you hear out
Are you
there?
looking on Facebook or YouTube?
Either one, both.
No.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking on Facebook?
I can hear it now,
I
yeah.
think it was just the music was a little All right, I think we're good. We'll get started. Okay, got over in the cameras. Okay, hello. Good morning, everybody. Danse, tetamskat nawao kakyo. Yeah, so we're going live here. We're doing a little episode. Today I have Taden joining me. I have Bryan Misto and Madison
Early
Madison. Yeah. So I think to start off again, just welcome everybody. We don't have an agenda. We're gonna, just fill in an hour.
Wing it.
With that, we'll do a little roundtable of introductions. I'll start off to my left, and then we'll go to Bryan and then Taden. So we'll start off with Madison.
I'm Madison. I work in the field of mental health and addiction in Lloydminster. I moved back from BC, the Lower Mainland, in December, where I was working out there in the field of mental health and addiction as well. Working more so with the unhoused community. Bryan?
Oh, hi. Thank you, Madison. My name is Bryan Misto. I myself have been, a little bit troubled with addictions and stuff like that come around. Did the old 180. Um, Doing good and looking forward to future coming up. I think I'm going to be looking towards, I guess, a career in the wellness sector of life. And yeah, I hope everybody's having a good day. So we'll pass it on to Taden here.
Yeah, I'm Taden. For you who don't know, I am a summer student helping Fraser with all the podcast stuff, website stuff, editing stuff like that. I'm currently going to university at Stanford University in the States right now, hoping to finish my 4 years to get an engineering physics degree. So
Wah wah.
Right on. Yeah. So where are we at here? Okay. So yeah. Again, welcome, Bryan, Taden, and Madison. I'm actually excited about this episode. I think part of what we'll be discussing today is mental health and holistic health, and how we can kind of deal with the day-to-day issues that we face in our lives as community members, not only in Onion Lake but surrounding communities. I know it impacts everybody, and we all know that. um and I'm actually glad that Madison's here. Bryan was able to bring her on board. Again, she works for residents in recovery in Lloyd, and she is in the like wellness field. So I think with that, maybe Madison, if you can, maybe tell us a little bit about the podcast that you have been running. Yeah, just maybe touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. So when I started working in BC, I was new to the field of mental health and addiction. So I stepped into it having no idea. Like I knew about mental health and addiction, obviously, but like working in the field was a lot different on the flip side. Being able to like help people and advocate for people in certain ways, especially in the Lower Mainland, being close to Vancouver, it was very difficult. Being able to reach out to resources and stuff like that. So then I just started kind of diving into that, learning a lot about resources and things in the community. And then about 7 months into me working in that field, I then kind of decided with one of my friends out there that I was going to start a podcast. It's always been something that I wanted to do. I didn't want to do it alone. So she was on board. We started a podcast called Yard Talk. We focused on mental health and addiction. And we kind of started it off with like the opioid crisis out in Vancouver. And then we talked a lot about like harm reduction. And then we kind of veered off into mental health and how mental health is severely impacting individuals in addiction, and how it basically starts with mental health and then leads into other ways of coping with your day-to-day struggles. And then I did that for about 6 months, and then I moved back to Lloydminster. She moved back to Lethbridge, so then we kind of split our ways. I tried continuing the podcast. I'm going to start back up in September, but my goal is to obviously reach out to other people in the communities to be able to share a little bit about what I know, but also like my biggest thing is educating people on both mental health and addiction and like ways to approach, I guess, everyone's day-to-day struggles.
Nice. Yeah, so maybe just a little shout out for the people out there. Madison does run a podcast, Yard Talks, like she said. You could find it on
YouTube, and then I do have an Instagram page as well.
YouTube and Instagram. So yeah, check it out. For the people out there that want to learn more about mental health and get different perspectives on it, uh check it out for sure. So my next question, I kind of, and you maybe feel the same way, but Um, yeah, I kind of would like to in over time. I'd like to kind of dive a little more deeper into Brian's story. If I think he's open to that. I think he has a really cool story, and a lot of people can relate, especially in our community, when it comes to battling addiction, overcoming addiction, and getting on the road to recovery, and different strategies you can, utilize on your path to keep you, on a good road. So maybe, if you guys don't mind, maybe share with us how you two kind of started, like connecting. Yeah, and we'll kind of go from there.
I think we were actually talking about this yesterday. I don't even really remember our first interaction. Obviously, as you had mentioned, I am a caseworker at Residence in Recovery. So Brian actually was my client at Residence in Recovery. He came to us in May.
I think in May, yeah, like around
Yeah.
the 14th or something.
Yeah.
May 12th or 14th. Yeah.
So prior to him coming, he just wanted to check out the house. He was like, I don't know if I want to stay here, kind of thing, because he was in Onion Lake. But he knew he needed to kind of make
I
it.
needed to make a move, and it
Yeah.
was just it took 2 days to make that decision
Mhm.
because like Tyler, who is part of Residence in Recovery, I guess he kind of runs the show there. He reached out to me and he said, I see that you're looking for someplace to live, someplace safe to live, and like safe from addictions and stuff like that. And he said we could put you up. We got a room opened up. So I went and looked at the house. I think on Monday, and
Yeah.
then the Tuesday I was already in there, moved in, everything. Yeah. So Madison helped me out there. I was in Lloyd at the Can Safe, getting safety tickets and stuff like that, and I just gave them a call and said I wanted a tour of the house, and I got picked up and went and had a tour of the house. I knew a couple people that were living there already from previous, like being in active addiction. I knew these people from there, and I could see that they were doing good for themselves. And I talked to them a little bit about what's going on there and stuff, and then they told me it was a good place to be. So I made the decision, and I was there the following day.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
it's
I would
good.
say, like, over time, the guys really grew on Brian. Like, he's a very open person to talk to. Um, and people just look to him for that advice because he always had something to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Something positive to say, especially like I know it can be kind of difficult, especially like when you're trying to work through your own stuff to be
Mhm.
able to find that positivity. And Brian was always the one to create that positivity, make everyone feel welcome, and just kind of guide people in the direction that they needed to be through their struggles.
Even if I wasn't familiar, or even if I'm not familiar with other people, if somebody come to me to talk to me, just a simple question, and it would just get my little hamster wheel going and stuff like that, and then I would just talk whatever comes to mind and whatever I feel would be useful for that person, to for them to apply to themselves. So it's like it's almost a second nature for me to talk to other people. So I think like it's probably my calling of where I need to be in life for me to live my life. You know what I mean? And it's also like it helps me a lot. It's therapeutic for myself because then it helps me, um, little memories or little triggers or whatever. It helps me identify my shortcomings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then I'll be like, oh, that clicked for me. So it's actually like I'm taking my own advice and then applying it to myself at the same time. So it's helping me get stronger at the same time. Yeah.
And obviously, with Brian being newer in recovery, like you said, you were celebrating your 8 months,
99 and a half months,
nine and a
about,
half
yeah,
months.
just about 10
Um,
months.
So I was doing street team through Lloydminster and Vermilion for Equity in Lloydminster, and I was telling Brian about it, and he was like, "Well, I kind of want to do that," but in a sense, like I knew that obviously Bryan knows the street life as well. Like, especially when you're newly in recovery, like like you're putting yourself in a situation where there's going to be those triggers and stuff like that. So I had talked to Tigra and I was like, Kate, Bryan wants to do this, but I'm like, I'm nervous. I know Bryan's very strong and he will speak up when or if there is a triggering moment. But then Bryan came out with us and like full force. Like he was out there, no holding back. Like he was the first one out of the vehicle. And I was like, okay, maybe he is meant for this. Maybe he can do it. But it was very nerve wracking because I'm like, I don't want to be that person to put someone in that situation and jeopardize their sobriety. And that's where I was kind of on the fence. And then obviously after like me and Bryan debriefed, he's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm like, okay.
Just got to show that that I had that ability and stuff like that. And it was good, like even people I didn't know that were on the streets, just because I know how it is to be on the streets and be a part of that community, I was able to connect with them and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's really awesome. So I just want to fast forward a little bit. I know Bryan, when he moved into the residence in recovery, the spot that they had for him, I don't think that really lasted long.
I
So
think
maybe share that and kind of what brought you back to Onion Lake.
Well, it didn't last long. I would say that I'm still a part of Residence in Recovery in Lloydminster. I don't think I'll ever be not a part of Residence in Recovery in Lloydminster because they helped me a lot. Thanks Residence in Recovery for that. And what brought me back here was I felt like I wanted to just go after culture, go after ceremonies and stuff like that, and I wanted to learn more. Because like I kind of had kind of like an overview of what a ceremony was, how it worked, but then now that I've been to a few ceremonies, well, more than a few, but now that I've been to these ceremonies, I kind of have like a broader, deeper, more I don't know how to say it, like a like explanation of what goes on, how it goes on, and how to do it. And I learned or I met a lot of people that have a similar story through these ceremonies, and they see me where I'm at in my recovery journey, and then they just give me they I don't know, they're thankful that I am in my recovery is what it is. They're thankful that I am there doing my part to learn this and even at these ceremonies, like I talk to people. People have questions for me, and I just speak my mind. Like I don't hold back and I don't sugarcoat nothing. You know.
Yeah. So just for the viewers out there, me and Bryan recently crossed paths here, and we've been buddies for a long time, like everybody else in the community. I remember when Bryan was younger, he played hockey, and he was always with the older boys, and I always looked up to the older guys. So me and him go way back. And then we went our separate ways in our lives. And then we recently crossed paths here again. And when I first bumped into Bryan again, I don't actually remember the exact moment, but this is where he was coming from. He was coming, from a road of recovery. And we started hanging out. And like Madison said, I got the exact same vibe off Bryan too. Like he'd come and visit and in my office here in the studio. And you know, I think as we all know, even if you don't, but I'm working on a program right now for the community, and it's a new program, and there's a lot of groundwork and a lot of legwork, and with that comes a lot of stress, a lot of time management, and trying to be strategic and objective, and get this program moving and growing and evolving. When me and Bryan crossed paths, I was kind of I think under a lot of stress and pressure with deadlines and stuff like that. And um Brian would stop in randomly, or we'd prearrange it, whatever. But I always appreciated the time that I had with him because, like Madison said, Brian's really vocal and not shy. Doesn't hold back. He engages when it comes to dealing with adversity. He loves to share his perspective, and a lot of times, as individuals, I think that's kind of a big something big that we need is just somebody to talk to. Like for me and myself, I was swamped with work, and yeah, Brian's visits, it allowed me to talk about what I was feeling, the pressure I was feeling, and we'd go back and forth. And I think the common denominator is adversity, which Brian is really familiar with the path that he's coming from. So with that, earlier this spring, summer, I was telling Brian about a project that I was working on, which was a land-based program, and trying to start like a Scapilsuin, a group for that, and also on the woman's side with Ivy. And yeah, I remember talking with Brian, and he's telling me, yeah, I'm moving to Lloyd, residence in recovery. He said, but I really want to do this program. So he was kind of at a crossroads, maybe like either trying to get into work to get his tickets and driver's back and all that kind of stuff. So he was kind of, on the one hand was that path, on the other hand was this Escapilsuin path, reconnecting with our culture and identity. And he's been kind of bugging me about that, hey, when are we gonna get this program going? Like, let's do it, and I really appreciated that, because I was kind of hesitant about it. I wasn't sure how effective it was gonna be, but with Bryan, encouraging it, we ended up kind of pulling the trigger on that. So Bryan ended up moving back to Onion Lake, to be a part of the program. And the way it kind of all started back in July, June, we like ceremony season started. We had we had a, I don't know, we could talk about this stuff, but we had ghost dances, horse dances, sun dances.
We'll just call them
lodging.
ceremonies. I
Yeah.
think, yeah. We
Okay.
won't get right into like the I guess into the, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I know what you're
Details.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, for those that don't know out there, and this is actually a message that I'm trying to get across, is the importance and the value of Wascapos when like being a helper at ceremonies. It's a tough job. Like at say the main ceremony, you're up at 5, 6 in the morning, and
At
as an
least 5:30.
escapos, and then you're going right to the end of the night until like midnight, 1 a.m. Sleep for a few hours, and then you're up back at it 5, 6 a.m. And yeah, this is the path Brian's been on, and it's really it's tough work, especially through all that heat. But it's something I'm really proud of Brian for, and it actually inspires me. And I could see how that works for any individual to keep your mind busy, keep yourself busy, so you kind of don't fall back into the a cycle of depression and your feelings and all
I
that
think
kind of stuff. So
that's a big part of it, is keeping yourself busy and occupied. Because like we were just talking about that just a little while ago with Madison and I, and it was like when you don't keep yourself busy, you don't keep your brain busy, or you don't keep yourself physically occupied or whatever, then you get bored, you get complacent, then you start thinking things, and you're like, oh man, I'm bored, man, what can I do to fill up this time? And then you start thinking about the old ways, places where you're comfortable. And like for myself, where I was comfortable before is being around people that I knew, well, I still know, but people who I used to associate with. And who are those people? Those are people in active addiction. And for me to stay away from that crowd is it was simple. It was like, put something in my path that I'm going to need to be totally committed to. And this program was that something for me. And residence recovery was another one of that something. Like you said, it was one thing on this road, one thing on this road, but ultimately they both lead to the same they both lead in the same direction, I guess. You know what I mean? So there, it was good. I got to experience residence recovery. I got to experience ceremonies, and in the end, it's like they work together. Take the
Mhm.
both best of both worlds, and they work together. Like and it gives me a lot more knowledge about, like, if somebody has a question about ceremonies, then I'll be able to possibly answer a question. But you got to give me tobacco. But I mean, like, even with residence and recovery, I could share my experiences at going to meetings and stuff like that, and just really advocate for sobriety and mental health, because like it always boils down to mental health and what you're feeling and how you're feeling, and that's where you get complacent. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I know. Just on that note, and I'm actually glad we're talking about this. But in our community in Onion Lake here, we have a really huge young population. I think over 50% of our population is like 30 and under, or 35 and under. And we all know employment is not very abundant.
mhm.
So and I was one of these guys too when I was younger. As a young person, if there's not enough jobs to go around, a lot of times we kind of end up just staying home, or else finding things to do that are not so great and positive. And then we kind of end up going down this path and getting into a cycle that's not healthy. So for the young people in the community, sorry, I just reading the comments here. Lance Batagan is, I think we got to mute him out. Just kidding.
Thank you guys
Stop
for your
commenting, man.
comments.
But no. So for the young people out there, if you think that there's nothing to do in the community, or else you're looking for something positive and impactful to do in the community, there's always a need for helpers at ceremonies.
Oskapiosuin. That's where it's at.
And that's for both male and female. So as a young person, it's kind of something that helped me too along the way. And it's a really beautiful space to be in. It's you have the elders there, you have the language there. It's really abundant and fluent, and you have all these knowledge keepers and elders. It's a really rich place for identity, or else reconnecting with that. And I think a lot of times as young people, we're not really familiar with that. Like growing up in the community, it's not um something we think about or pursue. But
Probably boils down to like exposure. Like, we don't really have much exposure to it. You know what I mean? Because like, when if we were exposed to it a lot more when we were at a younger age, I think it would be more part of a bigger part of our life. You know what I mean? A bigger part of the life that we're living now. Like if I was exposed to all these ceremonies and a Scott Pilson at a young age, I would have started way younger, and it would have been a part of my life, rather than going to being like a real big part of the construction trade and the oil business industry or whatever it is. Instead of doing that, maybe I would have took the summers off and went, cultural or something like that. I went to ceremonies and stuff to be with Scott Pilson. But I mean, like when I was young too, like there was times when I would be put to work, but I would always work hard. I would always work as hard as I could, even though the pay was only pop and chips. Hey, Don, pop and chips for a good hard day at work. So like even though the pay wasn't there, but it was like not a hard lesson learned, but it would be a good lesson learned. I think that's where I get my drive today. Now is my work ethic is just from being part of that. Um, but I think I went off topic a little bit.
I was gonna say, like, your story brought you to where you are today,
Yeah.
and it just defines who you are. And I feel like you can teach so many people with the information you have now,
Hmm.
no matter where you are. So, yeah.
Not one at a timing here.
Yeah, no. What I was kind of getting at was, naturally, and where we've kind of evolved to now as just people. The way our kind of system is designed, we have the Western education system, so a lot of our young people are, you know, occupied and busy with that all day, every day when you're in school, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a part of living in the modern world and finding a balance between that and our culture and identity. So, I think a message to the young people is the culture and identity and ceremonies is with us today. It's here. We have it. Is this something we have to tap into, I think, on our own to make that choice willingly? Like, okay, there's a Sundance or there's a ceremony over here. I'm gonna go help out. I got nothing else to do. That beats staying at home and, again, depression and then all these feelings. So message for the young people, the ceremonies are abundant in our community and our surrounding community. The knowledge keepers is there. Is this something that we have to pursue on our own at a young age, or a choice that we have to make? One thing I try to I think preach about or encourage is the importance of reconnecting with our identity and strengthening that in our language, and I fall in this bracket of I'm not very strong in our language, and it's something I would love to improve, and I'm trying to improve, but pursuing kind of that path for identity, like the reason why it's important is because the future of our people depends on it. um and when I say that, like the reality with our relationship with the crown and the federal government and provincial government, um I hate to say it, and then I'm not trying to scare anybody, but our funding, a large portion of our funding is kind of tied to that beneath the surface. So it is like it is an important area that we need to strengthen within our community. And continue investing into that and promoting it and recruiting young people in it. You want to learn the language, that's the best place to learn is at the ceremonies. And just sitting with the elders is always a blessing. So going back to like the Western kind of education system, there's nothing wrong with it. It's something that we all kind of do. in every community. We go after post-secondary or college, and I think a prime example of that is our young man here, Taden, summer student working with me. I think I'll hand the mic over to him. um Maybe if you could share with us, kind of your experience with all that. Like I know you're on the road to education right now, and you're pursuing higher education, post secondary. And like Brian said, exposure to ceremonies is not always something huge in our lives, especially when we're young. So maybe if you can just share a little bit about that, your perspective on that. Is it something you would love to eventually learn and grow? And like I know priority right now is your schooling. So how what's your thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, honestly, I definitely want to try like improve or like learn more about my culture because like I did grow up going to ceremonies and stuff like that, sweats, sun dances and stuff, or ceremonies, I guess, like that. But always felt like I was never um like learning enough, I feel like. And I guess I was always been more focused on school, like you mentioned before, like that. But still, I still do want to be a part of like learn more about my culture and stuff like that and the traditions to hopefully pass on to my kids and nieces and nephews, I guess, and like all that other relatives to the next generation, just to keep the culture going because I feel like now in our community not many youth, or like you said, are in touch with the culture, and I feel like it's slowly dying and I don't want that to happen. So I feel like more youth should be like they should be focused on the culture as well as like the academic because I feel like they're both equally as important. um like you said, like Brian mentioned how he ever since he got more in touch with like the culture and stuff like that, it kind of really helped him and was like therapeutic to him, and I feel like that is true. You can go to these ceremonies and traditions and stuff like that, and it can really help you if you're like struggling with stuff and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Madison, you have anything to add to that?
Sure. So I would say more so recently, I started connecting with the culture, going to ceremonies and stuff like that. Brian has been a big, I guess, not advocate, but like trying to pull me out of that shell. Like it's always been something that I've been very interested in. I'm in the University of Regina for my bachelor's of social work. So like it kind of like stemmed from, I guess, more so my youth, but then once I got into university and I really started like finding myself and who I am as a person, um, I just knew there was more to me that I needed to heal, and I'm a big advocate for like holistic healing, and like I do Reiki and stuff like that at home. So like it kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with the holistic ways of healing. So Brian had invited me as well as our elder Elaine Fox. So I would attend some ceremonies, and it has changed, honestly, my life. Like I am always looking forward to the next one. I'm always asking like, yeah, it's just really changed my perspective on a lot of things. And after like the first ceremony I went to, the next day, I was like a weight lifted off my shoulder. Like it was unbelievable. And I remember Brian calling me. He's like, "How are you feeling today?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm honestly kind of feeling a little rough, but like I know that's good because like I know I'm releasing stuff and I know that's what I like that's how I need to feel right now." So yeah, it's been really good, and I'm still obviously learning and asking my questions that I need to ask. But I always look forward to connecting and learning new things.
Yeah, that's awesome. um So just a couple of things I want to touch on. One of them is what Taden's talking about. The importance of balancing two different worlds. I think. I remember hearing one time a young lady talking about that. She was giving a speech somewhere, and the analogy that she used is like a team of horses on a cart or whatever. The only way that the horse team could function properly, or I think what she was saying was the importance of balancing and investing into the two different worlds, the Western world and the native perspective on things, kind of like a team of horses, and where they're both, you're strengthening both equally, not just one over the other, especially like in this modern day and age, right? If this was like 200 years ago, obviously that would be different, but this is where we are, and this is where evolution has brought us. Um, so the other thing, um, and maybe we'll just touch on this really briefly. We're already 45 minutes into this. We'll try to keep it to an hour or less, but the impacts of intergenerational trauma. I was reading on Facebook yesterday that everybody we know today are either residential school survivor, or else an offspring of a residential school survivor and a grandchild. So it is something that's very real, and it's something that we all were dealing with. It impacts all of us in one way or another. um, so I think when you kind of add that into the whole equation, and then we look at the challenges facing our communities, like addiction and connection, issues like that. Um, that it's something that's very real that we deal with, but it is something that we can break the cycle with our generation today, and our kids and grandkids coming forward. I feel like it's been it's been a challenge, and going back to connection, us as young people, our generation, I feel like, after high school, we tend to kind of get lost with identity. So we're trying to grasp onto something. And when we were younger, for us, it was like black culture and rap music and, things like that. Then I think we've adopted that. Maybe unintentionally, it was something that was cool. And then growing up, I think when we're kind of changing our path and actively pursuing something like native culture, I think it's more fulfilling for us with our spirit, and it gives us strength, and then it kind of leads down this path of recovery, maybe. So yeah, I just want to put that out there if someone has something to say regarding that.
I'll talk about it for a bit.
Yeah.
I like how you mentioned intergenerational trauma, because that is true. I actually wrote a paper on it during one of my classes this year during fall quarter. It was my final project. I did a lot of research on it. It's very true. There's a lot of different things that are, I guess, not instigating. Like, I can't find the right word for it, but are like they're fanning the flame pretty much to help with keep like the cycle going, I guess you'd say. And I did done bunch of research and stuff like that. Also came up with like potential solutions. Yeah, I wrote like, I think it was a 16-page paper. And honestly, like, I would like to share it, honestly, hopefully someday. Maybe someone could read it, give it a read. Like, it was all right. It was written all right, but I feel like I was missing some stuff. But I would love for someone to read it and just to like see that it is true, and there are research stuff being done, and there are hopefully, like, I believe there are solutions that can help us break the cycle of intergenerational trauma caused from like the residential schools and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I know, that's awesome. Maybe we actually had a meeting this morning before coming live. We were discussing the Onion Lake website. Maybe we could add a section in the website for things like that, like miscellaneous or random stuff, and then like it's somewhere you could post your research. Madison.
I think talking about identity, like I'm 25. I wouldn't say that I found myself until I was probably 23. And then it just kind of like blossomed from there, I guess you'd say. Like I just kind of like continued to find myself even more. And like I said, like ever since I started going to ceremonies, it's like I'm finding a new part of myself and I'm healing those things that I didn't fully heal, but I thought I healed in the past. So just like, I guess working towards what is comfortable for you in your healing journey, whatever that looks like, is the biggest thing, because once you find it, you're going to find yourself. And like, if you keep pushing for it, you're going to continue to find yourself, and you're just going to continue to open up and grow from there.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Brian.
Intergenerational traumas, man, everything stems from that. Because like if I think like if we didn't, if our people didn't go through what they went through, we probably still would have been pretty pretty strong in our culture, pretty strong in our ways, and we wouldn't have all this assimilation process and all that stuff. It all keeps, the people that went through the actual residential school, um, they're the ones that got stripped of their identities, and then now they got this false identity shoved in their face or whatever and stuff like that, and the next people below them, like their children and stuff like that, the next generation, um, they didn't have the full potential of what our culture was, because their parents and stuff like that, the generation before them, kind of got shunned out of that. So now they're feeling all this shame and stuff like that of what was done to them, and then now they don't choose not to share the culture that they've known before. And then it moves down to, I guess I'm just breaking it down or something, but in the end, it's like we're affected. Everybody's affected. Like Taden's generation is affected. Our generation's affected. You're probably affected too in some way, shape or form. You know what I mean? Because like the field that you're in, you deal with trauma issues and stuff like that. With I'm sure there's Native people there too. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it all boils down to how a person feels from what is shown to them. Then it boils down all the way back to mental health again. You know what I mean? It goes down to mental health and everything you feel with that depression and shame and all that fancy stuff. That's, we got to deal with these, and the only way to deal with them and to actually overcome them is to be real about them. You got to be real about what you got to be real about what your issues are, and you got to be real about how you want to deal with them, and you got to be real about who you're going to put in your path. You can't just go and talk to anybody about something that's bothering you. You really have to trust the person, and like for myself, the way I went through it is like I seen, I guess, like these groups of people that I could trust, like residents in recovery, like the whole group there. It's just been really, the doors were opened up for me right from the get-go, and I was able to start, talking to people, and I won't just go out to anybody. and start talking about my problem. For me, it's like Onion Lake Wellness, the culture team, or people that understand about addiction and about mental health and stuff like that, and be able to support to be a supportive of somebody's mental health and addictions and stuff like that, and to keep the person accountable, accountable about what they're doing and how it's going to affect them, and is it a good positive thing that they're doing for themselves. If somebody was there just to speak that, just to give that little nudge, okay, keep going, that's that's big in my recovery, road to recovery. So it's really like where I'm at, it's like everything boils down from that. Whether it be maybe my parents, maybe not both of my parents went to residential school, um but it's like there's obviously something behind the scenes of why I chose addiction, and it had a lot to do with personal issues. So it's like how you want to deal with them, how you want to overcome them. You got to be real about it, and everything just kind of falls into place if you're real about it. That's the biggest wavelength you can emit into the universe is authenticity. So if you're real about something, and then the good creator up there is going to send something good back to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so when Brian was talking, I was just thinking, like going back to um like one thing I really admire with Brian, and just maybe some encouragement for the young people out there. On the reserve in the community, going back to the scarcity of jobs. One thing I like with Brian is he's really proactive. He's always looking for something to do in the community. He's always trying to help out somewhere, and he's shopping around at wellness or wherever there's cultural events or just like community events. And to me, it's a model I think our young people should adopt in their lives. Phone around every day, every morning, see what's going on and see how you can help out. uh the initial step is as a volunteer. Go offer your services, do some heavy lifting for the older people or the organizers, be a part of the team. Usually what ends up happening is it ends up becoming a gig or something where you make um a few bucks out of it. Ends up becoming like you end up becoming a security
I,
at the
th- I
powwow.
think that's a good word for it, a few bucks, because like you can't expect a lot. You know what I mean? If somebody's giving you something and like they're seeing you do something good for them, and they say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna give this guy something, for helping out. It's not a job or anything like that, but it's kind of one of the perks of being a just showing up to do the work for somebody. You know what I mean? With even uninvited, just show up and say, hey, look, you need some help. Like this is like what I did at the powwow. I just went and I took another one of our buddies with me here, and he was actually calling me for cigarettes, and I was like, okay, I'll drop you off some smokes. So I went over there and I talked with him a little bit, and he was telling me a little bit about his issue. And I said, okay, well, you know what? Let's go do something. Let's go do something. You got your cigarettes now. So, and I was there, and it was like a few days before the powwow. I said, come on, let's go help out. The beat's sitting around here. So I had to get him out of his head, right? So I had to lead him into some place to where it would help himself as well as helping myself. I wanted to do something because I know if I start sitting around doing nothing, I get into my head. So I wanted to be busy. So we walked up to the arbor, and I said, "Hey, is there something we could do? We could help." And then Rose spoke up there, and he's like, "Yeah, we're here to volunteer." And okay, then the smiles came. Okay, these guys are here to help. So right away we got put to work. We got put to work. for 3 days of prepping. And in the end, it was like, okay, where are you? Like I got a phone call. Where are you? You're supposed to come over here and fill out a time card. I'm like, fill out a time card. I was like, okay, it looks like we're getting paid for something that we just went to go and help out. You know what I mean? So I went back there, and the hours were filled out for me and stuff like that. All I had to do was, write my name, and it was submitted. So I got a little bit of help from Powell Committee for the work that I did, and not only on top of that, just being that help, the security, Powell Security ended up having their orientation the third day of I was helping out there, and then I just went to go sit in there. I was just kind of sitting off to the sidelines, and they had their orientation. I was just sitting there, having a smoke, whatever. And the teams are picked for day shift, evening shift, night shift, and then there was spots available open, and I just got called out. You want to come and work? And I was like, I don't know. I guess so. I'm here now, so might as well. I've never been in security before. And after that was done, the one of the main security guys there, he's like, shook my hand. He said, "We'll see you next year." So obviously, I did a good job. I never been security before and stuff like that. So that's kind of what it leads to. You know what I mean? So it's just show up where you want to go, where you want to help out. Just show up, and it could potentially lead to small jobs.
Yeah. So it's we're an hour. We're approaching the 1 hour mark with this episode. Unfortunately, I have somewhere that I need to be here right away. Me and Taden. So I think we'll shut it down, and but we'll continue. Madison, like
For sure.
totally, you're welcome, Bryan.
Thank you.
I think we should do another episode and another episode after that, and after like it yeah, we'll make a series out of it. The next episode, I want to reach out to Dr. Saxon. He's our wellness director here in the community. He has a double doctorate in psychology and neurology or something with the brain. So he has a lot of, he's highly educated, but also has a lot of work experience in the field of wellness. So I think he'll be a good addition on this podcast. And we
For sure.
can we can pick his brain, or he can pick our brains and start diagnosing us for
Get some free therapy.
mental instability and stuff like that. So with that, in closing, we'll do a quick roundtable, then we'll shut it down. We'll start off with Taden and then come around this way. Just closing thoughts.
I don't know, really. Just I think this was a really enjoyable episode. I really like the topic of mental health. I guess I feel like it's important to talk about, especially in the youth. Being young, I see what everyone else and experience what everyone else is going through, and I feel like it's really important to talk about, especially in the youth, because, like you said, youth is like it's the beginning, before all that other stuff begins to happen. So I think it's really important to start early.
Yeah. And like being able to talk about all these things, it's just like it's being the voice, and pointing out what we need to address. I think is really a good thing. It'll help with mental health and stuff like that. I think it's really. I enjoyed this episode. Thank you for having me, Fraser.
I would say for myself, mental health has always been a big thing that I look towards. So now that I'm working in the field of mental health and addiction, it's something that I always turn back to is the mental health aspect of the addiction and just mental health in general. So yeah, thanks for having me, Fraser.
Yeah. And you'll be back, right?
Yeah, I will be.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So again, thank you guys for coming. Thanks for the viewers and the comments. You guys are awesome. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll be back for sure. It's a topic that I don't think you could ever have enough to talk about with mental health. So a lot to talk about, a lot to dive into. If this is something that interests you as a viewer, again, feel free to join us in the comments, or else you could phone in, or else you could come physically be here with us and join us. And yeah, is this something I think we'll just keep talking about and opening doorways for discussion, and let people know that it's okay and that you're not alone and that there's a lot of resources out there. And we just want to share our journey and how we deal with adversity and all of that stuff. Yeah, and we'll keep it going. So with that, thanks again everybody for coming, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys again. Kitam.
Oh.
Hi hi.